Oh boy, here we go again. Sony cannot just catch a break. It's always one thing after another. Let's get into the video. Let's talk about it. Alright, what's going on, guys? This is that guy Ken, back with another video. And yeah, we have some pretty interesting news today that I want to talk about. So let's just get into it. So the news that came out recently, today I believe, or whatever, within the last couple of days, whenever this video comes out, was the fact that there was a leak about Horizon getting a remake or remaster and DLC as well, coming out with that as well. And this has sent people obviously into another freaking outrage and spiral online. You see a bunch of videos, you see a bunch of spaces and stuff like that. People are talking about this, you know, and I just want to provide my perspective on it. Now, I don't particularly have an issue with Horizon. It's not really per se Horizon, the IP, the game, that I have an issue with per se. It's more so the fact that Sony is in a very particular situation, given their position, right? And you're starting to see, and this is not just from Sony, right? You're starting to see a lot of, you know, remakes and remasters and like re-envisionings and all this other kind of stuff, reimaginings, you know, of games from across the industry, right? You know, we've been seeing games like Dead Space remake. We've been seeing stuff like KOTOR, you know, that was announced. Shadow of the Colossus that came out a few years ago. The GTA remasters. You know, we have the Resident Evil games that were remade not too long ago. You know, we had the friggin' Mass Effect remastered games. You know, Demon Souls remake, The Last of Us remake. You know, we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 and 2. Both of those games were like reimagined essentially. You know, and now Horizon, it's Horizon's turn, right? Horizon is the one that was kind of like caught in the crossfire between all of this recently, right? And I just think this is like, not like I said, it's not necessarily like a Sony thing per se. I think this is an industry thing, you know, that we're seeing a lot of companies kind of fall back into, you know, IPs that they know are successful and popular. I mean, if you look at all of these IP, right, these are some of the most successful IP that have been, you know, released in the industry like ever, really, you know. But it makes sense because, you know, these are the IP that they know will make money. Essentially, they'll continue to bring in revenue, so on and so forth, right? Sony, like I said, is in a very particular situation with this because we know nowadays, right, that it's very expensive to create these big AAA games, right? And not just AAA games, but like new IP AAA games, right? And being that Sony is the one who's kind of like in everybody's like line of fire right now, and also coupled with the fact that they've released, you know, high quality AAA games, and that's kind of like what the quality and, you know, all that stuff, like that's their kind of like their mantra, right, in the gaming industry. It's becoming apparent that a lot of people are expecting Sony to always have these new, you know, high budget AAA new IP experiences, right? All of the time, whenever they have an event, like a state of play, you know, their new event or whatever it is, right? People are always expecting them to have these type of games, right? And we know that these are expensive, you know? And the reason why I bring up that whole thing, the expectation, is because when they don't provide these, you know, when they don't provide like these announcements or whatever, right? You know, even if they say like back a few state of plays ago, you know, they would literally tell everybody this is an indie state of play. You know, people would still lose their minds, right? You know, about it not having AAA stuff. But the reason why I bring that up is because, you know, amongst all of this stuff, man, optics do matter. You know, optics matter in terms of like, you know, just a general perception of how your brand is doing or whatever the case is, right? And there's only but so much negative press that you could take before, you know, people really start to negatively affect your brand, right? And we know that Sony, they care very much about their position and their brand and their optics and all that kind of stuff, right? But as far as IP, you know, I think because they know how expensive it is to create these new IP, right? I think you're starting to see them fall more and more and more into this pattern of remakes and remasters and IP that they know are successful, just like any other company in the industry. You know, personally, you know, I don't have a problem with remakes and remasters necessarily, or reimaginings. I just don't want to see them fall into that pattern, and, you know, we continue to see, you know, more and more remakes and more remasters and reimaginings and all that kind of stuff, right? I find it interesting that Sony literally has been putting out, you know, at least since the launch of the PS5, and even before, right? All of these high quality games, man, right? All of this stuff, right? Albeit a lot of them were remasters and remakes and stuff like that. You know, they're putting out games, and the competition is not expected to do the same thing, right? Nintendo, I love their games, man, but they're not the most graphically impressive games. You know, Microsoft, they are essentially just throwing out trash, and people are giving them passes because they're just not in the line of fire right now. You know, as a matter of fact, people are praising them for the crap that they're doing, their trash that they're doing. You know, but that's just it. It sucks because it's like Sony's put in a rock and a hard place, man, because, you know, people expect them to have these big IP, right? But they can't always do it because it's just not realistic for you to be able to announce high quality AAA games all of the time, right? So when they don't, it negatively affects them, right? But then when they put out these remasters, right, that are safe, that, you know, or whatever, people are still criticizing them because they keep putting them out because they are safe. You know, they're making the money and all this other kind of stuff. So it puts them in a rock and a hard place. Now, caveat, I know that they've already announced that they are working on new IP. You know what I'm saying? We'll just kind of have to wait and see how that goes. But I also think this isn't like a black and white issue, really. I mean, it's kind of a multifaceted conversation when you really think about it, you know, because they could also be using these IP to promote some of their newer projects, like The Last of Us, for example, right? The Last of Us HBO is coming out in 2023, as well as, you know, the whole multiplayer or whatever, right? So it makes sense that they would make a remake now to kind of garner more interest, you know? Same thing for Horizon. You know, the PSVR 2 is coming out in early 2023. So we know that Horizon Call of the Mountain is going to be one of the launch games for the VR. So to me, you know, there's also the possibility that it would make sense for them to have, you know, some Horizon content that would come out before the launch of the VR to garner more interest, you know. So there's that too. But it's just, like I said, I don't want to continue to see them fall more and more into these safe bets, you know, because it makes them money, right? But I also don't want to see them continuously criticized, you know, and the optics looking worse and worse and worse, you know, because of the moves that they're making that would make sense to them. But, you know, gamers are always up in something, you know what I'm saying? Because Sony's in the line of fire, they're always being criticized for everything. But yeah, that's really my take on it, man. I don't necessarily think that it's not, obviously it's not like an end all be all thing. It's just an observation that I'm seeing. It's speculation, you know. It could be a non-issue. We don't know yet. There's a lot of stuff that we don't know. We don't know what games they're working on or how many new IP they have, so on and so forth, or whatever the case is, right? So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But that's just my take on it. But yeah, that's all I had to say. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Yeah, if you guys liked the video, just make sure you like, share, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section, hit that notification bell, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.